I think it's great to see the food coming in. I think we're all very pleased that it has come at last. For many it's too late. We've seen the sites around Baidoa. Last month you may have heard that 3,194 bodies were picked up in a truck for burial. These were the people that had been abandoned. So for many it's too late, but for some it's okay. We're delighted to see it coming.
But there was little security beyond Mogadishu. Aid workers found it increasingly difficult to operate.
Well, there were enough blankets to distribute to everybody that was there yesterday. We had more people in there today. Some people got in without armbands. What can you do? Put a barbed wire fence around it seems to be what we need. I mean, so then there's gunshots went off. I mean, I don't know how many people in there have guns, but we had 20 security for this camp, and it's obviously not enough.
Relief agencies called for a stronger UN military presence, but UN officials dithered.
But I think looking around at what we are faced with, we need something to neutralize it. At the moment you are at the mercy of the larger gun. You bring the food, it can be looted. If a group comes in with bigger guns, then you have to protect it. If the presence of the UN can offer protection for this food, that you can get it to those who are really starving, I think then it would add something. But what I'm saying is that one needs to consider this in a broader light and much more depth. I've not done that.
You must talk your way out of the present groups who are occupying the port. In the absence of a centralized authority which can impose its will on them. You have this problem of one side of the two authorities very willing for the UN to come in and play some specific roles, but the other side is not ready yet. It's still under negotiation.
The head of UNISOM, Ambassador Mohamed Sanoun, publicly criticized UN policy and was forced to resign. The result was inevitable. A US transport plane was fired on. The aid stopped. General Aidid refused to accept more UN troops, claiming that they would constitute a new form of colonialism. His control over his militia was questioned.
You control a force when you are paying them salaries, when you are paying them rations, when you can confine them to barracks. The force with Aidid are not controlled by him because he had nothing to offer them. They have their own guns, they buy their ammunition, they do things on a crime basis. He can't give them instructions. He needs them, they don't need him.
Aidid's bluff was called by President Bush, who unilaterally decided to send in 28,000 Marines. Their role was non-confrontational. The clan militias were left alone.
All the arms that was given to Somalia by the Russians. In fact, the arms today can last the Somalis for another 5 years. One thing that Somalia could export today are arms.
When the civil war ends, how will Somalia survive?
Only time will tell whether these efforts will be adequate and whether the factions will lay down their arms and cooperate to rebuild the nation.
And who will this
You can't avoid blaming the Somali people in a way for what has happened. But they could have foreseen that their social structure might, and their belief in war as a way of solving dispute, of just picking up a gun before you finish talking, might lead to such a catastrophe. I think the two colonial powers, Britain and Italy, by dividing Somalia in the first place, obviously have some blame in this. And then being strategically placed in the Horn of Africa, of course, Somalia became a pawn of the Soviet Union and the United States. And both of them armed the government of Somalia at one stage or another. The United Nations role in Somalia has been absolutely disgraceful. The whole situation really came to a head at the height of the Gulf War, which didn't help Somalia at all because everyone's attention was focused a little further north. But it also happened at a time when Perez de Cuellar was ending his Secretary Generalship, and it wasn't until Boutros Ghali took over that anyone paid the slightest attention to Somalia.
It'll be a long, hard road to reconciliation and the end of Somalia's nightmare.
One little boy was lucky. On our return from Baidoa by the roadside, he turned out to be a frightened and bewildered little boy.
11. He had collapsed with exhaustion. We gave him some water and the first food he'd had in 5 days. He'd set out 10 days before with his mother and father to try and reach Walanwain, 140 miles from Baidoa. They had both died on the journey, and the others he had been with had abandoned him because he could not walk fast enough. With CARE's help, he's now awaiting medication and has been taken in by a CARE officer. He might qualify eventually for a place in an SOS orphanage.
Started as a mercy mission, but it turned into a war. American soldiers went to Somalia to feed the starving and ended fighting those they came to save. When American soldiers got killed, they pulled out. Tonight we speak with the men who sent them in, who fear the withdrawal sends damaging signals.
The message that sends to the rest of the world is if you have peacekeeping operations and you don't like the way they're being conducted, then there are Americans there, kill the Americans because it'll lead them to a quick shift in their position in regard to the peacekeeping operations.
We tracked down the warlord the Americans failed to find.
The condemnation should be directed to those who planned to undertake this unprovoked war.
We meet the helicopter pilot whose capture would alter the direction of the war.
I just laid the weapon across my chest and I just put my hands on it. I guess I was pretty sure that they were going to kill me at that point.